Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. In this video, we're going to be doing a tier list. I haven't done one of these in a while, so it's probably time for an updated version. There's 92 vampire movies in total, no TV shows because I'm going to save that for a different video, so this is movies only. Without further ado, let's get started and jump into the tier list. So first movie we have here is 30 Days of Night, Dark Days. I'll probably put it in D tier for now because it's obviously a lot worse than the first one. The story's not all there. It does add some overall cool stuff to the 30 Days of Night mythos, I guess, but as far as a standalone movie, it's not that great. So, and then this one, the first 30 Days of Night movie, I think I'm going to put that one in S tier. It's pretty special as far as vampire movies go. I think everyone can agree with that. I think 30 Days of Night is one of, if not the best vampire horror movies, and one of my favorite depictions of vampires. Animalistic, creepy, the sharp teeth, their unique language, and of course the setting. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I'll probably do C tier for this one. Honestly, it's a pretty good movie. It surprised me how good it was. It's 100% watchable. It could even maybe go B tier, but I feel like C tier is probably good for this one. Next we have Afflicted, which is actually a Canadian movie where I'm from. This one is a found footage movie. I don't know if you guys remember this one. I did do a video on it. I'm pretty sure I've done a video on almost every single one of these movies. Maybe missing like 20 of them. But so far all of these movies I've made a video on. So I'm pretty familiar with all of these movies. Afflicted I might even put in 8 because it's one of the only vampire found footage movies I can think of, and it's really good. And it's scary too. Next we have Dracula. I think it could go C tier for its cultural significance. It's still worth a watch. Next we have the Blade series. We have all 3 Blade movies in a row here. The first Blade movie, that could probably go S tier, I think. I think the first Blade movie is, you know, almost as good as it gets for a vampire movie. It's got everything that you want.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
The second Blade movie, I think that one deserves A tier, for sure. The Reaper vampires from Blade 2 are some of the coolest vampires in any vampire movie. And then, I've said this before, but Guillermo del Toro designed those vampires, and he later went on to kind of reuse that design in the Strain TV show, and those vampires are also really cool. I think Nomak was also kind of a better villain than Deacon Frost from the first movie, but I still think this is a good order. And then, the third Blade movie, definitely by far people's least favorite of the Blade series, I think. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. I don't know if it could do B tier. It's not a bad movie on its own. I'll put it in C for now. I think it's safe in C. Next we have Red Sky. This is a Netflix movie. It's the one where, I don't know if you guys remember, but the lady gets infected and then she turns into the vampire on the plane. So it's basically snakes on a plane, but vampires on a plane. And it's also a pretty good movie. A very good horror movie, very watchable. I think B tier is good for that one. That's a pretty good movie. Alright, now we have the BloodRayne movies. These are kind of stinkers, I'm not gonna lie. I'll probably put both of these in D tier. They're a tough watch. Like, the budget for these movies was not good. The actor does their best, but they are not good movies. Next we have Boys from County Hell. This one is it's like an Irish vampire, so it's kind of slightly different legend than what we're used to. I think B tier is a good place for that movie. Next we have Bram Stoker's Dracula. Pretty much as classic as it gets for a Dracula movie, vampire movies. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Jonathan was originally supposed to be Nicolas Cage, but I think it was the studio didn't like him, so they had Keanu Reeves do it instead. But I think S tier is a good spot for Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's gotta be, I mean, like, as far as, if I'm not really putting them like in order in the tier, but for sure if we were, that would go top of S tier so far, for sure. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is kind of a weird one because the show I would put S tier for sure, but the movie is not, it's not quite the same. It was made PG. I'm pretty sure it's PG-13, so it's a lot. It misses out on a lot of the stuff that the show does. I think the movie I mean, it did inspire like one of the best vampire TV shows ever. I'll put it in C. I think C is good for that. Next we have Byzantium. This one I haven't done a video on. I have watched it. I did not like it. I'm just going to put that in D tier. I have watched Buffy too. I haven't made a video on the Buffy movie, but I did the show. So I kind of feel like there's no point in covering the movie once you've covered the show. Next we have Cirque the Freak, the Vampire's Assistant. This movie's kind of a weird one. I have made a video on it. The books are a lot better than the movie for sure, because they kind of crammed 3 books into one movie, so it kind of messed up the story a bit, but I don't know if it's B tier worthy. That's kind of a tough one. I really enjoyed it, but I'll do C tier for now. I'll put it at the top of C tier. Alright, next, Kronos. Directed by Guillermo del Toro. I think this is a B tier movie for sure. That's a really good movie. Really unique vampire curse. It's like you put this weird bug thing on you that's like ancient. It was made by like a philosopher or an alchemist or something. Like, really interesting. Next we have Dark Shadows, another movie that I have not covered on the channel yet. I probably will eventually. I don't know. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. I would probably put this one in C tier. It's not my style, so I don't know if I'm being too harsh on this movie, but I think C tier is fair enough. Day Shift with Jamie Foxx. This movie was pretty enjoyable. Had a couple different like species of vampires. The cast was pretty good. I don't know. I didn't like the part where that guy kept pissing himself though. That part of the movie was just weird, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. Daybreakers. This is one of my all-time favorites. Willem Dafoe, Ethan Hawke. I think this one's good in B tier. I don't think it quite touches A, but it's a good solid B. The original Dracula with Bela Lugosi. I feel like that one's gotta go A. Next these are kind of out of order, these ones. Sorry. So first one here is Dracula 2000. I honestly really like this movie, especially the origin they had for Dracula in this movie, played by Gerard Butler. This one's a tough one. I almost want to put it in A, but I think B. I'll put it in B for now. Maybe I'll change my mind if I don't. I might be being a little too harsh on some of these movies, but the next two of these, though, nowhere near as good as the first one. None of the returning cast. I don't even think it's the same director. These ones are kind of stinkers. They can go down in D tier. Some of you might disagree with this. Dracula 3000, I'm actually going to put on C. Actually, I don't know about that. It's kind of it's a funny movie. It's interesting to watch, but I guess it's not actually all that entertaining if you're trying to watch a good movie, so maybe I'll put it in D. Dracula Untold. I feel like people, especially that watch my channel, seem to love this movie. I do too. I don't know if it's S tier worthy. I'll put it in S for now. It's pretty good. It's almost as good as a Dracula movie gets. It's the best Dracula's been done in the past almost 20 years, other than the newest Nosferatu movie, I'll say, but I think S tier for now. It's a good spot. I'll do the original first here. The original Fright Night from 1980 or late, I can't remember the exact year. I feel like this one, I think B tier is good for this one. It's a classic as far as vampire movies go. Like, if you haven't seen Fright Night, it's a must see. So I think alright, I'll leave it in B. That's a tough one. And then we have Fright Night 2, the original Fright Night 2, if that makes any sense, but because I think there's like 3 Fright Night 2s at this point, or there's at least 2 of them, because there's another one here. I think this one's C tier. It's still a pretty good movie. I don't know if they like let the copyright expire on this movie or something, but you can actually watch this whole movie on YouTube for free. So if you want to watch Fright Night 2, you can do that right now. Well, maybe after you watch the video, but alright, so then we have the Fright Night remake. And I'm actually going to put the remake also in B tier. I think this remake was really good. I don't know if it's quite as good as the original, but it's, you know, all you could hope for in a remake. It doesn't mess with the movie. It's really good as far as a remake goes, in my opinion. They did not screw it up. And then, so yeah, the original one had Fright Night 1 and 2, and then there was the remake, and then the remake also had a sequel. But This remake goes in D. It's no good. Next we have From Dusk Till Dawn. Oof. This is a tough one. Definitely an S tier movie as far as movies go. I don't know if it's an S tier vampire movie. Definitely A. No question, it's A. It's A or S for sure. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan, maybe, but we'll put it there for now. I actually just noticed it's missing the third one here, so I'm going to add that really quick. There we go. I just added the third one in there. Alright, so From Dusk Till Dawn 2, it's still a pretty good movie. It has absolutely nothing to do with the first movie. You only see the bar very briefly. One character does well, actually, no, he doesn't reappear. It's Danny Trejo is still in the movie, but he's actually playing like his twin brother. So, yeah, it's not the same person. It's still a pretty good movie. I think C tier is good for that one. And then the third one is definitely the worst. It also has nothing. Well, actually, it's a prequel. The third one is a prequel, so you get to see like the bar a long time ago in like Old West times. It's still kind of interesting. I don't know. That's a tough one. It's not D. I don't think it's D. It's got the guy that plays Boba Fett in it. That's got to be worth something. So I'll leave it in C. Next we have the all-new Dracula. So we're into these are in like reverse order again here, I think. I'm just going to go ahead and put all the Hammer Dracula series in B. I think that's pretty fair. Alright, now The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. I watched this a really long time ago. I'll be honest, I don't really remember much about it. I'm just going to put it in C. I remember it being pretty good, but obviously it's pretty old and it's pretty weird. But I'll put it in C. What the fuck even is this movie? And I can't even read the title because it's so small. Alright, I honestly can't remember this movie and I can't read what it says to save my life. So I'm just going to throw it in C. Hotel Transylvania, I feel like that deserves B. Why not? Alright, next. Interview with the Vampire. It's at least A. Absolutely. Could be S. You know what, I'll put it in S. I think it deserves S. Rest in peace to Anne Rice. And, I mean, this is like one of the... Also, next to these other ones, especially Bram Stoker, this is like one of the most classic vampire movies of all time. And the story is really good. It probably helps that the screenplay was written by Anne Rice herself, which is why the second one is so weird compared to the first one. I had to slightly unzoom so I could get some more room. I was running out of space already. Alright, Interview with the Vampire. How come the second one isn't right next to it, though? Alright, we'll do that one. I see it right here. Queen of the Damned. So Queen of the Damned is the second... It's a sequel to Interview with the Vampire. I don't think it probably goes in A tier. B tier... I think there's an argument to be made it could be put in B tier. It has one of the best female renditions of a vampire ever, with Akasha. I think she's one of the coolest looking vampires. Stuart Townsend, he's a good actor. He's a little bit corny in this, I'll agree. I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm going to put it in B. Next, we have Let Me In. So this is the American remake of Let the Right One In. I think C tier is good for this one. I think the remake is not as good as the original. If you've only seen Let Me In, you need to watch Let the Right One In. That is way better. It's way darker, but it's way better. Alright, here we have the Lost Boys movies, but I wish these movies were more in order, but I'm the one who made this template originally a long time ago, so I guess it's my own fault. We'll just do Let the Right One In because it's right here. This is the original one. I think it's a Swedish movie based on a book that's also Swedish, I think. I think this one could go A tier. I think, I don't know if it's better than Kronos or Boys from County Hell or Blood Red Sky. I almost, looking at the rest of these movies now, I don't know. God, this is tough. I hate making tier lists because I want to just put them all in like A and S tier, but I gotta really decide which ones are better than others. I'll leave it in A for now. I think it's a really unique movie. It's strange. Don't get me wrong. It's very strange, but it's a good movie. Alright, Morbius. This movie has a special place in nobody's heart. I was gonna make a video on it. Like, I was planning on making a full video. I did make a video just breaking down like the trailer a long time ago, and I planned on making a full video, but then obviously when it came out, everyone hated it so much. I was like, I'm not even gonna bother. I don't know if it's D tier. You know what? Okay, it's D tier. Night Teeth. This is a Netflix movie. Wasn't too bad. Doesn't really have any like point to it though. I think this could go D tier too. I hate throwing movies in D, but sometimes you just gotta be honest. Near Dark. Alright, here we go. I think Near Dark is an easy A, possibly S. You know what? I'm gonna put it in S. I think it's an S tier. The themes of the movie, the Western aspects, all the actors. It's the same crew from Aliens, because I'm pretty sure it was the same director, or there was somebody from Aliens involved, so that's why it's like all the people from Aliens are in this movie. And I think the chemistry of that cast is what made this movie so good. So I'll put it in S. I think it deserves it. Next we have the original Nosferatu. I'm going to put this one in S too. It was the first ever feature-length horror movie ever. So the first feature-length horror movie ever made was a vampire movie. That's why vampires have always had a special place in the horror genre. Next we have Stakeland. This one, also pretty good. It's like a post-apocalyptic movie. I really enjoyed watching it. It's like Zombieland, basically, but with vampires. It's the best way to describe it. I think B is a good place for this movie. You know what? I might even put the first one in A. And here's Stakeland 2, or sometimes, I think the second movie is sometimes called the Stakelander. It's got like two different titles. I think the second one can go in B. It's still pretty good. It's not quite as good as the first, but it's still very good. Red Snow. This one, it's barely about, like, the vampires play such a small role in this movie. I don't know if it's D tier. I'll put it in C for now. Next, The Breed. I just covered this movie pretty recently, so this one is very fresh in my mind. Very unique. They tried to be creative with it. Some of the sets are really cool. Some of the costumes are pretty cool. The overall story of the movie was also pretty interesting. It's like a murder mystery, basically. I don't know if it's B tier. I think C tier is a good spot for this one. I would put it above Red Snow for sure. Salem's Lot. The original. From what, 1978 or 1979, I think is when this came out. Based off of the book by Stephen King, obviously. I think this has a good argument to be S tier. It could be A, possibly. I think for how good the movie is and its place in history, for those two reasons, I think S tier is a good spot for Salem's Lot. Next, we have The Lost Boys. This could be my favorite vampire movie of all time. Probably even in my top 5 of just all movies. I think this one gets an easy S tier. It came out the same year as Near Dark. The Lost Boys and Near Dark came out the same year. And I think they're both amazing for different reasons. So I think they both deserve S tier in my opinion. Next we have Thirst. This is a Korean movie. I'm pretty sure if I can remember. Not Japanese, I'm pretty sure it's Korean. I want to cover this movie on the channel soon because it's really cool, and the vampire virus or whatever it is in this movie is very interesting, how it affects people and how you get it in the first place. I think B tier is a good spot for this movie. Next, Priest. This is also one of my all-time favorites just because of how different it was. Really unique vampires, really cool locations and sets, and an interesting backstory. I'll put this one in A. I think it deserves A. It's got Paul Bettany, Cam Gigonde, Carl Urban as well. I forgot about that. Alright, we're doing pretty good. We have a couple rows of movies left here, and we got some real heaters down here, so we could be filling up the A and S tier, possibly. Did I just do Yeah, okay, I just did Lost Boys, so I can't even remember how many Lost Boys movies there is. I don't know if all of them are here. I think there's like 4 or 5 at this point, so Let me pause again and make sure they're all here.
A few moments later.
Okay, never mind. I just double checked. The fourth one was supposed to come out, but then the whole production company folded, so thank God we didn't get that one. Apparently they are working on a reboot though for The Lost Boys. I've been hearing that for a few years though, so I'm not holding my breath. I can't even remember which one of these comes first. The Thirst or I think it's the Tribe, because it still has one other person from the original movie. They all have Corey Feldman, who's now moved on to bigger and greater things like making music. The second one, honestly, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. So I think C tier is fair for that. The very last one though, it's like, it's only Corey Feldman left, and it's not so great.
Yeah, it's not so good.
So we'll put the last one in D. I feel like this one deserves C though. It's not horrible. I just had to add another movie in real quick because I noticed this one only had Night Watch. It didn't have Day Watch, the sequel. So Night Watch, this is a Russian movie. It's about as unique as a vampire movie can get. This movie is super cool, kind of hard to understand, damn near impossible to find a version that has English dub. I had to dig through the internet to find the English dubbed version of this because I wanted to be able to play some of the scenes from the movie and people be able to understand it. So if you try to watch this movie, you'll probably only be able to find Russian with English subtitles, but it is worth the watch. It is so good. I'll probably put this in A tier, honestly. This movie was like a blockbuster, and this was like the Dark Knight in Russia at one point, if you know what I mean. Like, it was that popular. It was a hit over there. I think A tier is a good spot for that. The sequel is also pretty good. I don't know if the sequel could... I think the sequel, B tier, is fair for the sequel because it is also pretty good, and it's a direct continuation of the first movie. It's not like From Dusk Till Dawn 2, where it's like a totally different thing. It's a continuation. Alright, next we have one of the most hated series on my channel, I think. Or at least that's the vibe that I've got, and that is Twilight. I'll be honest, they're not the worst movies ever made. Like, they do some interesting stuff with vampires and werewolves even.
This is what I am.
I'll put the first movie, I feel like the first movie, I don't know, that's kind of crazy. Oh, man. Putting Twilight next to Day Watch and Thirst, I don't know if I can do that. That's kind of crazy. I might have to knock it down to C. And then the rest can go in D. I thought about putting it in B, but as soon as I saw Twilight next to some of these other movies, I was like, there's no way. I can't do that. Ultraviolet with Mila Jovovich, if I remember correctly. Same girl from Resident Evil. This is also a very unique movie. I don't know if it's not always a good thing. In this movie, I'll give it like 50% good. Some of the stuff they did was cool, but the movie is very weird, and there's parts of it that just look very odd. I feel like C tier is fair for that, for Ultraviolet, because it is interesting to watch. Alright, and I see here we have the Underworld series. Obviously something I'm very familiar with. It's basically what started this entire channel. I know the series front to back, like the back of my own hand. Definitely not D tier. The first Underworld is a very good movie. I mean, it spawned 4 more, so it was good enough that it gave them that much hope. Kate Beckinsale is amazing in it. Bill Nye in this movie is possibly the best vampire villain in any vampire movie, period. And also, I saw a bunch of people in the comments the last time I did a video about Underworld, and they were saying, that's not how you pronounce his name, like, don't you know how to pronounce his name? I do. This is one of my favorite series. It is Bill Nye. I swear, you can look it up for yourself. It's not Bill Knightley. There's no T. It's not Bill Niley. It's Bill Nye.
Hello, I'm Bill Nye.
And Bill Nye, who was on here, people may have come to see Bill Nye, but they stay for the play.
Yeah.
Acclaimed hit in London, and
Bill Nye, who's
and Bill Nye,
popular.
and
So, having said that, we can move on to Evolution. I think, well, I didn't even finish talking about the first one. I feel like this first one, A tier, for sure. Maybe even S. You know what? I'm going to put the first one. I feel like the first one deserves S. The first one is really good. The second movie, I think it deserves A tier. That's the introduction of Marcus, the hybrids, the original werewolf, Alexander Corvinus. Her relationship with Michael expands. Like, these two movies were like perfect synergy. And then it kind of got a little funky after that. Still good, but these two are the best for sure. Rise of the Lycans actually is also really good. Where's that one? Rise of the Lycans. That's a tough one. I feel like Rise of the Lycans is A as well, to be honest. I feel like Rise of the Lycans is actually better than Evolution. Rise of the Lycans is arguably... You could argue that it's the best movie, honestly, of the series. I've heard a lot of people say that. I've even kind of thought that myself at times. Now I don't... I'll leave it there. I'll leave it the way it is. First one, S. I think that's good. Then we have Awakening. The movie that... It's kind of a love or hate with a lot of people, but it did make the most money out of any of the movies. Like, I think it made like almost twice as much as the next highest grossing of the Underworlds. So it was very popular for whatever reason. They did good marketing or something. This one, I don't know if it's a B tier. I feel like Blood Wars is definitely like a C or a D. It's also pretty watchable though, but it's one of those things where it's good on its own, but when you compare it to the other ones and where you wanted the story to go, that's where it falls flat. So if you're judging it just purely of its own merits, I feel like C tier is fair. Awakening, I don't know. You know what? Awakening might have to go in C, and then Blood Wars might have to go D. Because I feel like Blood Wars and like 30 Days of Night, Dark Days, like, yeah, they're kind of similar, where it's like these are sequels. You'll watch them because it's a sequel to something you like, but as far as just like, if this was the first movie, that would have been the end of Underworld right there. So it's a good thing that the first movie was really good. I didn't include the anime in here because I don't know if that's like considered a movie. If the anime was in here, I'd probably throw it in B, but we're going to leave that out of this. Next we have Vampire Hunter D. The first one from 1985. I did make a video about these, so I know these pretty well. They're honestly very good movies. I think I would put the first Vampire Hunter D. Honestly, I think I'll put it in A. I'm not even a huge anime fan. Like, I'll watch them if they're good. I like Dragon Ball Z. I like a couple things, but it's not something I watch on a regular basis. But Vampire Hunter D is about as good as you could get for a vampire anime. And the lore is very interesting and pretty much endless. So then we have Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. This is the sequel from, I think it's like right around 2000 if I remember correctly. I'll put that one in B because honestly that one is also very good. This is another, like, if you haven't seen these and you like anime and vampires, like, I don't know how you haven't seen it if that's the case, but if you haven't, you gotta watch them. Vampire Academy, that's a stinker, put it down in D. Vampires in the Bronx, kind of an underrated movie, I think, to be honest. I don't know if it's I know it says Netflix, but I don't know if Netflix just like bought it or something, but it's got some good actors in it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It kind of reminds me of Vampire in Brooklyn, just because the name is kind of similar. I wonder if they were trying to do that, to be honest. I'll put this one in C tier, honestly. I think it's better than Morbius. Yeah, absolutely better than Morbius. So I think C tier is fair. I just had to quickly add in another movie because I realized it's not here, and it was Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy. I can't believe that wasn't in the tier list the first time, but I guess since then I have covered the film, so I know it a lot better now. And honestly, I enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would. This one is possibly A, but a B for sure. I'll put it in B. Next, Vampire's Kiss. I mean, it could be S just for the memes alone, but as far as actually watching it, I don't know if it's D. I don't know if it's that bad. Maybe top of D. I'll put it in top of D. With Blood Wars and Dark Days, it can be a little friend group in there with BloodRayne. Next on the chopping block, Vampires Suck, which is like a parody movie. I'll put it in D, because it's not funny. They probably could have done something cool with this, and they totally fumbled the bag, and it's awful, so. Vampires with James Woods. This is up there, probably in my top 10 vampire movies. This is a really good, fun movie to watch. The vampire species really interesting. This one, I feel like it could go A. I feel like A is a good spot for that one. I would say it's a little better than Blood Red Sky. It's a little better than Boys from County Hell. I don't know if it's better than Kronos. I might have to move Kronos up to A. I'm still... even Daybreakers, I don't know. That one's like bordering on A. I'll leave it there. A for vampires, and I'll leave these ones here. Van Helsing. This, definitely one of my all-time favorite movies. Some of the best werewolves, best CGI werewolves ever on screen. One of my favorite depictions of Dracula, easily. I know some people hate the Dracula from this movie. I really like him. I feel like it's supposed to be over the top and theatrical. That's kind of my favorite part about it. I'm gonna put this one in S. I feel like it's that good. It's really good. I don't know if it's like as good as Bram Stoker's Dracula for the same reasons, but I feel like it's as entertaining for its own reasons. I've said this before, some of these early 2000s movies, or even late 90s ones like Blade, Van Helsing, Underworld, like we just don't get movies that have that kind of, I don't know if vibe is the right word, it's kind of corny, but alright, next, What We Do in the Shadows. I threw an A right off the bat. It's probably a pretty good spot for it, to be honest, A. I really, in my opinion, I think the movie is 100 times better than the show. The show is still good, but I just think the movie is so much better, so much more cohesive, and kind of a complete thought, if that makes sense. Like, the movie is thought out from front to back, and it's amazing. It could almost be an S. I really do believe that. You know what? I'm gonna put it in S. It's the only vampire mockumentary on this entire 92 movie list, and I think it does it amazingly well. It's very funny. It pays homage to a lot of the most classic vampire movies, so I think S is a good spot for that one. Alright, what do we have next here? The Invitation. Saw this one a long time ago, don't remember it at all, so that's probably not a good sign, so I'm just going to throw it in D. I see Night Teeth here again. We did already do that one, so I must have just put that in twice by accident. Shadow of the Vampire. This movie was actually not directed, but produced by Nicolas Cage, because he always wanted to play Dracula. Nicolas Cage was supposed to be in Bram Stoker's Dracula because his uncle is Francis Ford Coppola, but the studio didn't like him or whatever, so he wasn't in that. But he liked Dracula so much, he went on to produce Shadow of the Vampire, which has Willem Dafoe playing Count Orlok, which I don't even think I mentioned in my new Nosferatu video. I don't know if A tier. This is a pretty good movie, honestly, though. Like, it's pretty loyal. It's kind of a remake of the original Nosferatu mixed with some aspects of Dracula, kind of like the new Nosferatu. I'll put it in B. It's maybe a C, but I'll put it in B. Next is a pretty new one. I think this one was from 2023. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I don't know if it's A, you know, I'll probably put this one in C. It was pretty interesting. It's pretty good as a horror movie goes. It's pretty much a vampire slasher movie. There's not much to it other than the killing. So for me, I think it's a C. Next we have Renfield, the new Renfield, with Nicholas Hoult, and Nicolas Cage, who finally got to play Dracula after producing Shadow of the Vampire, almost being in Bram Stoker's Dracula. B or C? I think it's a C. Maybe that's because it's not my kind of Dracula movie. It's more of a comedy, and that's not really my preferred genre of vampire movie, even though What We Do in the Shadows did it so well that kind of gets a pass because they just did it so flawlessly. This is kind of, it gets a little cringe, so I feel like C is a good spot because it is still a fairly good movie. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This is kind of loosely a vampire movie. I don't know if I'd say it's a vampire movie or not. It has a vampire in it, and it has another guy, Dorian Gray, who's kind of like a vampire. He's immortal and can't be killed and doesn't age. As far as if this was just a regular movie tier list, I would be putting this in S all day. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's right up there with Van Helsing for me. These two movies feel so similar to me for some reason. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the Van Helsing movie. I feel like this one deserves A. I don't know, some of you might disagree with that because it's like barely a vampire movie, but it has vampires and it's really good, so I think A is a good spot. My Babysitter's a Vampire. I did do a video on this a while ago, a couple months ago probably at this point. It's not something I'd watch today, but for the time that it came out and the age that I was at, it was a great movie. I'll put it in B. Only Lovers Left Alive, with Tilda Swinton and guy who plays Loki, whose name is escaping me at this moment. I'll put this movie in B. Honestly, I haven't made a video on this one. I have seen it. It's not, I mean, it isn't focused on the vampires. It's not like a vampire movie like Underworld, but it does feature vampires, and the whole movie is about vampires. So, and this is actually, Tilda Swinton is in this movie, and she was later featured in What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, because they would often bring in actors that had played vampires in other things. And in her case, it was Only Lovers Left Alive. So we have 5 movies left to rank, -1 because we already did Night Teeth. So 4 movies left, featuring Abigail, the new Nosferatu, this absolutely horrible Dracula movie that I can just put right here, Dracula Reborn. Terrible. So that leaves us with Abigail, the Little Vampire. I think the Little Vampire could go in C. I loved this movie as a kid. I unfortunately didn't even own this movie, but anytime I got the chance to watch it, it was like a celebration. Next we have Abigail. Abigail was a very good movie. Good horror movie. Good take on vampires. Especially the child actor was extremely good as Abigail. Makeup and effects are really good. I think this one's an A tier. I don't know if you guys will agree with that. It may be B, but I honestly feel like A is fair. I feel like Abigail's better than Blood Red Sky, Boys from County Hell, Kronos, Daybreak. Like, it has a little more going for it. Daybreakers is so good. It's got such an interesting premise. I might have to move Daybreakers up to A. Honestly, just because I love the idea of it so much. And they really do a good job showing like what vampire society would be like, and I find that part really interesting. Alright, what does that leave us with now? Alright, just the very final one to rank. I guess that's kind of fair because it's probably the newest movie of all these, so I guess that's fair to rank it last. So, does it go in A or S? I feel like A is minimum. This movie, I saw it in theaters. I don't see many movies in theaters. And I decided to go see this one, so that says a lot right there, and I was not disappointed whatsoever. Lily Rose Depp, amazing. Bill Skarsgård, amazing. Nicholas Hoult, I like him way better in this than Renfield, for sure. He was in 2 Dracula movies within 2 years, which is crazy, but yeah, I like his role in Nosferatu much more. The sets of this movie, the story, the makeup. I especially liked Willem Dafoe in this movie. That he was probably my favorite. I'll put it in S. Honestly, I think it's that good. I mean, it won a bunch of awards and stuff, and like you don't see that ever with like vampire movies. Like you don't see Dracula Untold winning Grammys or whatever it was that it won. I am gonna leave it in S. I feel like it deserves to be with these other movies. So our final S tier Bram Stoker's Dracula, 30 Days of Night, the original Blade, Dracula Untold, Interview with the Vampire, Near Dark, The Lost Boys, Nosferatu, Salem's Lot, the first Underworld, Van Helsing, What We Do in the Shadows, and Nosferatu. I feel like that's a pretty good S tier. And then A, I feel like this is pretty solid too. Afflicted, Blade 2, all these ones, Priest. Like, yeah, these are all movies that I would rewatch any day. Same thing with B. Most of these movies are an easy rewatch. Maybe I probably wouldn't watch My Babysitter's a Vampire today, but like I said, if you were a kid, you'd watch it for sure. So I feel like it deserves B. That's the whole tier list. I'll zoom out on it so you guys can get a full look. This template is still on Tier Maker, so if you just search up vampire movies, Kogan Lawlens tier list, you'll be able to find it. It will be missing like 10 movies because I had to add, you know, like movies that had come out since I did it last. So, but it'll be 90% here. If there's any rankings you disagree with, let me know down in the comments. Honestly, I would really like to know if there's any that you think I really messed up on and why. Like, is there some movie in here that should be an A and S tier and I'm just forgetting something, I'm overlooking it? I think this ranking is pretty fair though. I feel like maybe Blood Wars and 30 Days of Night, Dark Days could go in C tier, but they're the worst of their respective series, so I guess they can just stay in D. Dracula 3000 I almost want to put in C, just because it's entertaining, not for like good reasons, but again, I'll leave that in D too. So that's all the movies. That's 92 movies. Actually, no, that was before I added a few, so it's probably more like 95 movies in the end. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I just wanted to do something different and kind of fun for a change rather than just my normal vampire species breakdown or kind of movie review. So I hope you guys enjoyed something a little bit different. Let me know. I would eventually like to do a TV series tier list, vampire TV series, because there's a lot of them. I've covered a lot of them on the channel, so I know most of them pretty well. Let me know if that's something you guys would want to see. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. Like I said in my last video, I'm trying to get to 250,000 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it. As always, an extra shout out to all my members for supporting the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.